throughout my like high school days, throughout college, everything, I've always been a drug addict. I've always messed with drugs. Like I've, except for the days I've gone to jail, like I don't miss a day without doing drugs.
All right, Kalic. Kalic, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I'm born in New York City. I was born in Manhattan, but raised in Queens Village, South Jamaica, Queens, New York. So,
Tell me about your childhood.
childhood was interesting. I always say I'm a trick baby. So if you're not hip to the terminology, that means basically my mother was a prostitute and my dad was a customer, basically, a John. So I didn't grow up with my mom. Basically, it went like this. My mom was a prostitute. She got pregnant. Her pimp at the time thought I was going to be his child. So they basically were like really looking forward to like their first child and stuff. My whole name is Kalic Paul Anthony Chambers. The Paul Anthony Chambers is the gentleman that was her pimp at the time. And when I came out, he's Jamaican, full-blooded Jamaican black guy. And they noticed, you know, how light I came out and everything like that. And after like a couple of weeks, a month or so, they realized like, oh no, he's not, you know, Paul's son. So my mom basically, after about 2 months, she told my grandparents, hey, I'm about to go to the store. And she just ran off, bam, back to the streets. And I didn't see her again for like the next 17 years pretty much. I grew up with my grandparents in New York. I always wondered, like, it was funny, I always think about it, like, my mom always said, I left you thinking that you would have a better life with them. But I always thought to her, like, well, those were the same people that raised a 14-year-old prostitute. And my aunt, her sister, is like, you know, was a drug addict until the day she died. So I'm like, what, you expected, like, better results the second time around or something? But you know what, for me, it really worked out. I learned a lot from my grandfather and my grandmother. Rest in peace. My grandfather was like an amazing man. He came here from Cuba. He came here before Castro took over in Cuba. He just took a shot. He just didn't want to be, he didn't want to be poor. So he came to New York. He had a funny story, but he slept in graveyards in New York for the first 2 years when he didn't have nowhere to stay. And he always said that, you know, there's nobody there to bother you. That's the safest place to actually go to sleep. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. That's creepy to me. My grandma, she immigrated from Haiti to New York. And basically, she was like a seamstress. She worked like, you know, old school factories, sewing factories and stuff like that. And they did decent for themselves, you know, like, okay, my grandpa owns like supermarkets and liquor stores. Like the supermarkets that he owned were called Associated. So like he did all right for himself, basically. They tried to like implement, you know, like some kind of like decency with me. But for some reason, like, even as a young kid, like, I kind of gravitated towards the streets a lot. And basically, like, by the time I was, like, 11, 12 years old, my grandma gave me a nickname in Creole. It's Chien sans maître, which means the dog without an owner, because that's how I ran the streets, she said. She's like, I already could see it in you. Like, you love that, you know? You love it. So I was always a good student. So I was doing good in school and stuff. I get to high school. The funny thing is I was rebellious and everything, but the thing that like basically like, you know, the final nail in the coffin for me in my house was I never knew it, but my grandparents were in an open relationship. So my grandfather had like his women, my grandma had her boyfriends. The thing was she would bring her boyfriends to my actual house. And they would actually like hang out, stay over, because my grandpa would take time out to go to Dominican Republic like twice a year for a month apart. And during those months, like basically like she would have her boyfriend stay over. And when I was about 14, I like basically got into a big fight. And I like beat the crap out of one of her boyfriends. And when my grandpa came back off of vacation, I was all like amped up, like, yeah, man, you know, like I beat him up for you. And he looked at me and was like, man, this is too deep for you to even understand right now, but she wants you out of here right now, so you got to go. And he's like, he was big on peace of mind foremost thing. So he just wants to keep, like his wife happy. What she wants is what's going to go. So I got kicked out. I bounced around through New York, like, friends' houses here, my aunt's spot once in a while here. I'll, sleep on the subway here, just make it basically. Every once in a while I'll come to my house. They'll let me in, get my clothes or take a shower and then get the fuck out, go. So I made it work for myself. But along the way I got like addicted to drugs, started with weed and like the weed is horrible in New York. So like basically like you smoke a little weed and your tolerance builds up real quick. So, you look for more, a drug addict, you look for more, like a higher high. So like by the time I was 14, 15, I was already messing around with heroin, cocaine, crack, all of those things. But as a child, like I knew my background. I knew what like my grandparents didn't really pull no punches. So I knew what my mom was prior to like anything. So at some point, like early on in life or like around that point, like I like looked at it different than other people. For me, I wouldn't be on this earth today if it wasn't for prostitution, cocaine, freebase, and Quaaludes. Because if it wasn't for that, my mom would have never had me. So basically, like, I owe my life to that. Like, like some people owe their lives or they're planned or da-da-da. Like, for me, that's the equation that led to my birth. So for me, like, I have a different, like, outlook on all of that kind of stuff, Like, I find it, like, some people are born into the streets, or they say, or, like, born into it. Like, I was born into the streets. Like, it's different than trying to experiment or anything like that. So basically, I was just running amok through my teenage years. And by the time I became 17, my grandfather was like, you know what? It's time for you to get out of here. And I was like, what you mean by that? He's like, you're going to go meet your mom. And he brought me a plane ticket for Los Angeles. And mind you, my mom would always call, like for holidays and stuff like that, for my birthday, but I would never talk to her. They would always try to give me the phone, and I'd just be like, nah, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to talk to her. And basically, I moved out here when I was 17, right before my senior year of high school. And that's when I met my mom. My mom, I look back on it now and kind of trip out because I was 17 and my mom was like 32, 33, 34-ish. And I gave her a tough time. But looking back on it now, I realize, like, man, she was like a baby too. Like, she wasn't that much older. Like, I'm 43 now, but I could just think back, like, where I was at 30, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're still learning things. You're not, like, a complete person yet. So, like, I was, like, real tough on her when she was still trying to find her footing in life and everything like that. So when I'm 17, I moved out here in LA. I moved to the Valley. My mom had me, and I have 3 other brothers. My mom kept one brother. So basically, my other 2 brothers were like given up to like different people. One of my brothers was given up to my mom's madam. She had a madam also while she, during her time in Orange County. And then my other brother, it's a sad story. My mom's was in a cab with both of my brothers. And basically, she was like, she was saying that, like, she was breaking my brother Charles down, like, you're going to go to your aunt's. I want you to go there, just knock on the door, ring the doorbell, and just, let them know that Teresa said, can you guys watch him for a little bit? So, and this is a sad story for my brother, but I guess my mom dropped him off. It was like on 103rd in Normandy in the rain and everything. He said nobody was home. My mom goes off with my other brother, leaves in the taxi, and like he had to wait for like 3-4 hours till somebody came there. So he's just sitting on the porch in the rain, just like waiting. He's like 8-9 years old and stuff. So like, stuff like that kind of messes with your like, with your perception on life and stuff like that. So when I moved out here, my mom now had her second son, and then she went and got back my other brother Charles, and like basically it was us 3 brothers living together. And my other brother that she had gave up still doesn't want nothing to do with none of us till this day. The messed up part is that my birthday's on 7/11 and his birthday's on 7/11 2 years after me, and my daughter's birthday's on 7/11 also. So like I always wanted, like in the back of my head, like, you know, like maybe even if one day he ever sees this, like Eduardo Jet Willingham, like to like just, you know, bury the hatchet and, you know, like, you know, we're a family still. But it always bothered me because like I have one more brother that I have no clue. At this point, I don't even know how he looks, you know, like he could walk up to me in the middle of the street and I wouldn't recognize him, you know? And it's kind of weird because like I'm a family person for some reason, even though my family's crazy, but like I'm real like family orientated person. So like that's always bothered me. But anyways, go through high school and stuff. I don't know how deep you want me to get into this, but like I've had some wild times. Like the funny thing is when I moved here, you know, I thought my mom was on the up and up. I'll never forget it. She worked at Valley Presbyterian Hospital in the Valley. She was getting paid $8.25 as her first ever actual legit job. And I used to think like, dang, $8.25 an hour, how the hell do you pay for all of this stuff for all of us, you know? I didn't know it at the time, but she was still prostituting. And I didn't find out till about like maybe 3 weeks into my senior year of high school. Her boyfriend like is out of nowhere. I get home and he's just sitting there and he looks so angry, dude. He was like a older black gentleman. His name's Lawrence Darnell. I know he wouldn't mind me saying this. He was in the military and stuff. He was a doctor in the military. Just a good, solid, like, you know, family-orientated, value kind of guy. Straight, what they say, a square bear from Delaware, you know, square from Delaware. Like, he didn't really know anything about the streets. So I get home and he tells me like, Kalic, you have to come with me. I have to show you something about your mom. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And he's like, just get in the car with me. And we stayed on Sepulveda in Sherman Way. And Sepulveda's kind of famous for being like, you know, somewhere where you could pick up women in the valley and stuff. And we drive about like 3 miles up the road to a hotel. I'll never forget. It's called the Pink Cloud Motel. And we pull into there and I see 2 cars in the parking lot and one of them's my mom's. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like, ooh. And he's like, he looks over at me and I kind of smile and he's like, why are you smiling? I was like, oh, you didn't know, huh? And he's like, what the hell? What do you mean? I don't know. And I was like, man, let's go back to the house. I'll explain everything, dude. And I basically break it down to him like, you know, like I'm a, you know, trick baby, you know, like I don't even have a dad. And I was like, my other 2 brothers, because he like basically took on one of my brothers, like his son basically, because he had been with her for a few years. And I was like, well, him and Charles, they're both sons of her old pimp, Charles Sr. And he's like, what? He's like, I've shook that dude's hand. I'm like, you know, like, well, you know, it is what it is. And it just like blew his brain cells. Like he was like, what the hell? Like, she never told me. And I was like, oh, well, I'm telling you now. Like, I think it was maybe me wanting a little, like being a little vindictive towards my mom, but also just like letting them know like, okay, the jig's up, man. It's not no picture perfect family you're walking into here for sure. And when he gets home, it's so funny. My mom comes sashaying in. She's like, I just went to get the groceries. It was real, man. So many people in line, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, Mom, give me the groceries. Let me take them. And he's like, man, I got to talk to you, Teresa. And I hear them arguing in the background and stuff and all of this. It was crazy, like just insane. Like, you know, and she's begging for him to stay, this and that. And I'll never forget it. He goes, Kalic, you want to see something real gangster? And I'm like, yeah, sure, Lawrence, whatever. And he convinces my mom to give her clientele book, like her black book. And I guess she was messing around with like 6 guys. Even though she was working, she still had 6 clients that she kept. And he basically calls each client, and it was a funny get back, but he tells them like each one on the phone, he goes, hello, is this, you know, Mr. Such and Such? They go, yeah. He goes, well, I'm Dr. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm the personal physician of Miss Vargas. I'm just calling all her lovers to inform you that she just tested positive for HIV AIDS. And fucking, you would hear like the dude screaming on the telephone, like, no, this can't be true. Ah. One dude like denied. And he's like, well, if you're not or not, I'm just letting you know that this person has AIDS. They're like, what? Like, it was crazy. Like, the way he did that, that's like one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, he got his get back. Their relationship, it kind of maintained for like maybe a year almost afterward, but eventually it just like fell apart. Like, it was too much like lies and stuff like that, so still like a good dude. He still keeps in contact with like me and my brothers and stuff like that. Good guy. Just didn't work out. But my mom now, she's like she works at a hospital in Pompano Beach, Florida. She owns a house. She's married. She lives like a good life now. Like, she like put all of that, to the side, But that was like the day like that ended for her, for real and stuff. So like, I'm proud of her on that note. But for me, throughout my like high school days, throughout college, everything, I've always been a drug addict. I've always messed with drugs. Like, except for the days I've gone to jail, like, I don't miss a day without doing drugs. I've been doing drugs since I've been 12 years old. And honestly, like, sometimes it gets scary, but one of my good friends has told me, like, I hope you go to jail, because he knows, like, probably might be the only time, like, I actually stop. Because at this point right now, I don't know when I don't see like one day I'll just want, people want to go to rehab or want to change their lives. Like, I'm not one of those people. Like, I've been very successful throughout my life. Like, when I was in college, I wrote nationally publicated papers. I was a published poet, like a great student. But I left that all behind, and I used to always go to the racetrack. Always been always like been attracted to horse racing. Where I live in New York, I'm like 10 blocks away from Belmont Racetrack. So every year, like for the Belmont Stakes, there's a blimp that just flies around the neighborhood. And it would always fascinate me, because I'll be like, that blimp? They'll show it on TV, then I'll look up like, that's that blimp. Like, yo, this is crazy. Like, what is it all for? And it's for horse racing. So as a young kid, I like always followed horse racing and stuff. So, by the way, like during my like high school days in New York, I got kicked out of like maybe every off-track betting parlor in New York City, from the Bronx down to like Brooklyn, basically. Like,
For being too young?
Yeah, too young. Yeah, you can't bet until you're 18 at the racetrack. So, but I didn't care. Like, I would bet until they find me. So then there used to be like 100 betting parlors across the city. So you just jump to the next one. Like, so like that used to be fun for me. So basically, when I started college, I went to Cal State University, Northridge. Actually got accepted to some pretty good schools. NYU, USC, UC Santa Barbara, UC Riverside. I chose Northridge because it was local and they offered me the best financial aid packet. So I wouldn't have to come out of pocket at any point. So to me, that was like the most important thing. I didn't want to really be in debt. So like on my like off days or like different days, like instead of going to the library like most people to do their paper, like I'll go to the racetrack and I'll like put in my little bets, like my little $20, $30 worth of bets, and I'll just sit there, read, watch the race, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I got my ex-wife, I've only had one wife, but I got my ex-wife pregnant, and basically it was like, it was her junior year of college. I was like junior, sophomore or something, because I was kind of like, one semester I'll take 12 units, one semester I'll take 6. I was kind of like, just like doing whatever I kind of wanted almost. But when she got pregnant, I was like, man, I need to get like some kind of real job, something, at least bring some kind of income in. I can't just keep hustling and doing all this goofy other stuff. And it was funny, at the San Anita racetrack, they had an advertisement for anybody who wants to work on the weekends, make some extra money as a, like work the beer stand and stuff. So my first ever job at the racetrack was at Santa Anita working at the beer stand. And I would just, like help somebody out. And, you sell beer, churros and soda and all that cool stuff. And eventually, basically, I got a job at all the racetracks in SoCal. So there used to be 4 of them. It was Santa Anita, Hollywood, Pomona during the county fair, and then Del Mar Racetrack. And I had a different job at all of them, but I had like some kind of job. After like doing that for a couple of years, one day this guy comes up to me at one of my jobs, and he comes up to me and he goes, you want to work with the racehorses? He was a trainer. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'd love to, like, heck yeah, sounds cool. So he says, come to the barn in the morning. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I show up the next morning, and I have no experience. And basically, I didn't know, but he wanted someone cheap to work for like next to nothing. And I worked for him for like 14 months for like no money. I didn't have a day off, nothing. But I gained invaluable experience. He always said, you were under apprenticeship, man. You just stop saying you never worked for no money or nothing like that. I'm like, it's, he said, she said, you know what I'm saying? But I learned a lot. And then eventually I got recruited to work at a bigger barn, like a championship stable, basically. And I worked for Doug O'Neill, like shout out to him, like the best man I ever worked for. Just a good ass human being, dude, like real good dude. And I always say, like, when I talk about all our victories and stuff, is we, because he made it a team. So no matter where you were at the totem pole, like you played a part in this when we won like the big races. Like with him, we won a Kentucky Derby. I won 5 Breeders' Cups. I think he won Dubai. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. Oh yeah, 1 race in Japan. Just like, I worked around world-class racehorses, but the whole time I was still high. High as a kite. But I don't know, I'm different. I don't know what it is about like my mental makeup or whatnot, but I don't get high in like other people, you know what I'm saying? Like when I started getting high when I was younger, I used to do it like almost as a religious thing, because we believe like, my family practices Santeria and voodoo. So like basically like the smoke, you can like send messages with the smoke, to the ancestors, like that's why you see the big cigar smoking lady or man doing the Santeria and all of that kind of stuff. Like it has like validity and stuff. So like realistically, I started doing drugs hoping to like send my like dreams up to the heavens kind of, and I've never like lost that no matter what. Like I've always had that kind of like little thing in my back, like the back of my head and stuff.
What drugs do you use today?
Today, goddamn. I use methamphetamine and fentanyl. Like full-time fentanyl. And I'm late to the ball game. I just started using it a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where do you live? Where do you stay?
Right now I stay in South Central, but
you have an apartment?
I'm in a housing program. Like I'm in one of the programs where they took us off the street and stuff. Yeah.
How do you make money?
Now I deal drugs. I sell drugs. Like come and catch me if you can. But
yeah, everybody's doing it. Either boosting.
I've done it all. Boosting,
selling drugs, or selling ass.
Yeah. I've not sold my, but if it was worth something to somebody, I probably would. But for guys, it's just not the same as girls, So
I think the guys can make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny. One of my friends, she's in that industry, like heavy and stuff like that. And I remember one time it's funny. I kind of was like, man, I'll turn some tricks, like, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, I'll find you a date, like if you're serious. And then eventually she did. And it was like a 79-year-old lady. I mean, with like first generation plastic surgery, like her face was so like mangled, and like she had like 2 balloons and just like wrinkled skin and everything. And I was like, oh, hell nah, man, I can't do this. And I like basically like during the dinner, I was like, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. And I like crawled out the window and was gone. Like, and she was like, you couldn't do it, huh? And I was like, yeah, I couldn't. Sure can't. And it's funny because that same girl, eventually, like, my marriage fell apart because I was on the road a lot and stuff. And my wife, she was a stay-at-home mom for like 12 years. And I have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful son that's 19 and 13 years old. And she's still raising them and stuff. I haven't been in their life as much as I should, but I'm in my daughter's life. My son, not as much. But this girl that I mentioned that's in the industry, it's funny. She's a prostitute, but I like hooked up with her, right? About like maybe a couple of months after I had gotten kicked out of my house and stuff like that by my ex-wife. And me and her like really clicked. We really bonded and everything like that. And eventually, she's the person that brought, for Valentine's Day, she invited me out to Vegas. We like hung out, blah, blah, blah. And she brought me an Ancestry.com kit because she knows my story. And she was like, take the swab. We're going to send it in. We're going to find out who your dad is. And I was like, we'll find out where he's from, but I doubt we'll find out who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a needle in a haystack moment right there. So I do the swab, we send it in, and it comes back, and I find out that my father is from like Mexico, traces back to Spain, like he's from like Jalisco, Mexico. And I had two sisters that matched up with me, like right there on the site. And they got in contact with me and everything. And it was kind of crazy because I'm like, no way, this ain't gonna happen. I've been living 40 years now, like, resigned in the fact I will never know my father, dude. And out of nowhere, like the possibility now springs up. And they got in contact with me, like, how are we related? Da 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 da. I messaged them back. We messaged back and forth a little bit. And then one day they were like, okay, tell us, like, really, how are you related? And I told them the whole story, like my mom was a prostitute, man. Like, so that means he was a customer. And, they must have really hit it off because he impregnated her and stuff. And they've never hit me back on the message board again. So basically, like, I at least know who he is because I saw a picture through the Facebook and stuff. So like, I like got to answer that question, but like the whole ever knowing him or anything like that, I think that's out the window. But it's all good. Like, I don't mind at all. Like, I consider myself lucky. Like, the way I was born and put onto this earth, I'm on a free roll the whole way through. I'm on a free ride. Like, the only person that wanted me here was God. Because, like, the way I was born and everything, like, most people don't make it in that situation, like, and I love life. I've lived so much life. Like, I enjoy it. Till this day, I'm living. When I've been, with the, college, racehorses, whatever, like, I've always, like, lived the best I can. And even in the streets, like, I'm living the best I can. Like, I'm not going to let nothing stop me from enjoying myself and living my life because this is the only life I got. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What a great story.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you, man.
No problem, man. Thank you.
When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.